I just started at the University of Washington, and I knew that I wanted to sing. That was always something that I wanted. So when I was in high school, it's like, okay, when I graduate, I have to take this really seriously and figure it out. So I started recording in local recording studios, and I would sing the hooks for some local hip hop artists. And it's funny because like Macklemore like kind of was in that circle at the time. I wouldn't know who the heck I am at this point, but so we performed at some kind of random stuff. I was nervous, definitely nervous, and I was like, this is it. I'm going to get a job at a radio station. I'm going to learn how to get my song played, and this is a genius move. So I got my internship, and I quickly learned that I loved radio in a different way.
How were you able to get the internship? Was it just randomly calling them?
Like at the time, you were allowed to get school credit for it.
Okay.
So I applied online and all that kind of stuff. There's actually 2 radio stations in Seattle that were really big at the time. And Maria, I know you're familiar with, it was Cube 93.
Yes.
And 106.1. And the funny thing is I went for an interview first because I really wanted to work at Cube. I had an excellent interview with a guy by the name of Mike Schubert. And I'm going to call him out now because I work with him now. And I remind him all the time about that time he didn't hire me. So he didn't hire me, but it ended up being such a blessing because I got the job at KISS. And that's where, everything kind of started to snowball. And really, it's sometimes it's just the right person believing in you or seeing something in you. Because what happened was I was performing and hosting at a club night that the station was at. And so one of the jocks there, his name was Jerry, he saw me and he came up to me towards the end of the night and he's like, wait a second. So you sing, you host, and you work at a radio station, but nobody at the radio station knows that you do these things. And I was like, yeah. So, it quickly turned into, him telling some other people at the station. And there's a woman that went by, Kristen the Island Girl, on the radio.
I remember her.
And she became my mentor. She was there and we bonded automatically though, like over music. Like we loved old school R&B. And so we just bonded that way. And she took me under her wing and started teaching me things. So like, that's kind of how the ball started rolling. And at that point, I didn't realize what I had just walked into. Because, a lot of us sometimes, if you're lucky enough to get a job at a radio station in your hometown, in any capacity, it's like, well, I don't really know what this is because I never really thought about it before. Until later you start understanding you got to hold it like a little baby, like an egg. If you drop it, it could crack. You really got to take care of it.
Yeah.
And, I got humbled quickly because I didn't learn that right away.
What was making you kind of fall in love with radio, I guess? It
started to be the conversations. It started to be the connection that I saw because, I was a street team member, but then like when I started doing call-ins and stuff for the afternoon show. So they would send me out and I was with listeners. Like that's when like people would flock wherever the radio station was, because they wanted free stuff. So I would do call-ins from wherever I was. And I just saw the connection that the station and the music and everything had with the people that were driving from all over the place just to come see me in this little Volkswagen Bug. And it wasn't me, it was the station. And then you learn you're part of something bigger, And I think that connection is really what drew me to it. And then when you start geeking out about certain artists with people and you realize that common bond is truly the music is what brings people there. And then you build on that. So that was what is, I think, beautiful about like, CHR and just what it is, what we do, even though it's changed now because whatever, but it's still the same idea. And then artist interviews. Like I really liked the storytelling aspect and I liked that I understood it from a different place, I thought at the time. Like now I'm not even going to act like I'm an artist. And I was like, I'm an artist. So I know what they're talking about. Like I know what it's like to write a song, so stupid like stuff. But then I don't know, I started to feel comfortable in that space. And I wasn't necessarily good yet, but I felt a connection to it and people saw something in me. And that helped really fuel my fire. And, anytime you're interested in something, if you don't do the follow through, like, I don't know, you've probably encountered it too. Like if you're mentoring somebody that definitely has talent and it, even though they're not there yet.
Yes.
If they don't see it through, then you're just like, you're almost offended. Like, what the heck?
Oh my God, all the time. Yes.
So I knew like, you have something, why are you throwing it away? And these people saw something in me and I didn't want to throw it away. So, I saw it all the way through, and it ended up turning into something really special, and I was lucky enough to still be coming up in radio in a time where it was like, 4 club nights a week, and you're the pulse of the city. And it's just, all of these things that was just so cool. So it really came down to the people, the different kinds of people. I mean, I'd go home and I'd be like, man, there is never the same day twice.
Yeah.
And the stories that these people tell you are things you can't even make up.
Yeah.
It's just, what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was really fun for me. So it started there. And then I wanted TRL. And then I just knew I really wanted New York. And New York has been a hot spot for me for a long time because I'm also kind of from there. And I always wanted to go back. So summers were spent on the East Coast between New York and Baltimore. And then I was in Seattle growing up in the suburbs outside of Seattle.
Okay.
And so I always felt like I was seen and accepted on the East Coast, especially in New York. A bigger girl, like darker than most of my friends, but there was something about who I was that they liked.
Uh-huh.
And, and at that time, you're just trying to figure out who you are and where you belong. And when you're not feeling embraced anywhere you go, it's isolating, you feel bad about yourself. And I mean, these are all things that I think I've had to go back and kind of put together and understand why I felt that way that I did. But so New York became my obsession. Like, we moved here from New York when I was younger. And so I came here with a different style. And at the time, I mean, Seattle can do that now, but at the time it was very Northwest and North Face and tan clothes. And I showed a polka dot outfit with a scrunchie with the New York accent. People are looking at me funny.
Yes.
So, it was an interesting time to just, and to be mixed on top of that. And, multiracial, I should say. And, people didn't understand how that fit into the white suburbs of Seattle. So it was fun.
Yep.
I mean, I made a lot of friends. I had a really good childhood, like all of that kind of stuff. But like the little nuances, I think I'm learning and going back and putting all the pieces of who I am together. So New York became my focus. And the funny thing is, it's like, along the way, you have people that tell you that you don't look the part. This is radio. You need to lose weight. I had the best knocked up moment in my life. Have you seen the movie Knocked Up?
Oh, I don't know, actually. I don't think I have, actually.
Okay. So it's a great movie with Katherine Heigl and oh my God, pot smoker, Seth.
Oh, Rogen?
Is it Seth Rogen?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. And she was a correspondent for E! And she had gotten pregnant. And so she went into the office, and it's supposed to be this whole funny scenario where they're like, do you have a trainer? Maybe you should lose weight before we put you on camera. And I got an audition at MTV. It was right before Vanessa Minnillo got hired, I think.
Okay.
Not anything like Vanessa Minnillo. I am not a model. I am not those things, but I know music.
Yeah.
And personality. So it actually went really well up until the point where they're like, yeah, so do you have a trainer? What are your eating habits like? And I'm like, oh, I just got a trainer. Like, I can do whatever you want. Like, I'll start puking now. Like, whatever. And I left there and I was like, oh, wait a second. They're really telling me to lose weight because I just don't look the part. And that's how it goes, but it's just.
It's like different when it actually happens to you, right?
It was so funny. I got so drunk that night because I just didn't know what to do. I was like, what do I do? And I borderline, was like, should I throw up right now? And then
right. I don't have an appetite anymore.
Yeah. So but it was funny. Like, I'm a very persistent person. Like, once I figure out what it is exactly that I want, I make sure that it happens. And there's something to that whole manifestation and visualizing thing that I truly believe in, because I didn't just want New York.
Yeah.
It became so focused. I wanted 92.3.
Okay.
So, and if you're familiar with radio, that frequency is flipped many times. And so I had gotten it right at the right time. But I skipped a step. I also went to Sacramento and I was there for a while, which was awesome as well.
Yes.
But New York is really kind of, I think, the defining moment of my life. Gosh, what a bold statement. And I think that because at that moment, I knew I was capable of anything that I wanted.
When you got it?
When I got it.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's why it was a defining moment. And how hard I worked to get it was insane. I sent I sent that program director, Rick Thomas, a box of balls. I was trying to get anybody's attention at that station. There was this big box of balls.
Okay.
And, inside, I'd also created a basketball, like the kind that you put like behind a door in an office, like one of those with like the logo on it. And there was a card. I mean, I had baseballs, basketballs, fireball, like candy, whatever. And the card was me with my Yankee hat on, and it said, "I've got my balls ready to go to be the new co-host of your morning show." And then I got a call back. And then you know how that goes. It's like seconds. So then I flew myself to New York, you know, the story everybody hears when you just like force a meeting upon people.
Yeah.
But it was worth it. You know, it was all worth it. That credit card racked up real quick, but
I hear that from a lot of people that, yeah, kind of just throwing themselves out there and making, you know, and investing in their own stuff like that unapologetically, and stuff happens for them when they do that.
Yeah, because it is about sticking out. Like there is something about, why are you the one? And a lot of us, I mean, good if you believe you are the one, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
But like, show me, you know, show me however that is. And
I love the ball thing, by the way, because I sent creative packages back in the day too.
Yeah.
And I've heard other people that have done things like that. And I haven't heard that one. So that's fun.
I don't even know if people still do that, to be honest with you, but
they should. Like, if you really want it, I mean, again, how's the way to stand out? I mean, fuck.
Yeah, like, how bad do you want it? And it's funny because I think you probably were working around the same time where it was like hustle culture was so big. And even in radio now, the idea of not hustling as hard is kind of a thing, which I appreciate to a certain level because I've had to learn boundaries myself just to have a balanced life. Also part of the reason why I moved home. But like when we were coming up, like the hustle was real. Like I'd be like, I didn't sleep last night. I was at the radio station. Then I went to school. Then I nannied. Then I went back to the radio station, then to the recording studio. And then it's like, why? Because you were popping Adderall all day long and drinking Starbucks? Like, yes, that's exactly how I got through it. You know? Yeah.
Yep. And there's a lot of people around our age, same exact thing. We're doing this. You're right. Like hustling. Like,
right. Hustle culture was that way. And if you look at it now, it's not. It doesn't mean that, you know, you can be the most talented person in the world, but it's like, you can't just show up. Or maybe you can. I don't think I can speak to that anymore.
Yeah.
Because the rules are different.
That's true.
Rules or what it is. I'm not really sure.
I think it's sometimes too, it's that I think the younger folks, I guess, aren't going for that as hard because to be noticed and to be somebody, they don't have to use the radio station anymore. They can just go on YouTube or they can just go on Twitter. You know, they can go somewhere else.
No, you're right.
You know, back in the day, everybody's fighting for those few spots either on radio or TV.
And now everybody has the potential to build their own, which in a way is cool just because I think there's space for everybody. Like there's enough room. It's just, what is your message? What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Why though?
Getting to New York though, so like I guess essentially so early on or so soon, like was that like kind of weird too though? Because it's like you're up here. So it's like I always wonder that one, especially when radio jocks go to New York, because in the eyes of the radio world, it's like only down from here. Even though that's why I tell people to not just think of market size as being, you know, it's all the other things, you know, not just your market size. But how does that feel?
I mean, that's a great question. And honestly, like, I haven't really talked about this yet, and I'm totally going to. Like, if you're lucky enough to fall in love with a station, you know, not just your job or whatever, if you're lucky enough to have an attachment to a station, then it is a loss, a huge loss, whether it flips or you get fired or whatever the scenario is. And it's a weird concept because are you allowed to mourn the loss of a job like that? That's weird. But the station flipped and, you know, it wasn't anybody's fault. It just is. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I don't know. Things happen. And I was devastated. Devastated. I defined myself personally, and it's not even about market size. I think it's more about the journey that I had created. And it was, I'm defining myself as a person that's going to get to New York. And I got there, and my job was to do whatever it takes to stay here. And then the station flipped and it was all out of my control. Like, what are you going to do? So I was devastated, and I was faced with like probably the best problem in the world. I had to choose now where I was going to go next. And I was in a position to have the luxury of having a choice.
Yeah.
And, you know, I realized how blessed I was in that moment. Like, I'm so thankful to the company. They kept me. I didn't get let go. And they were just letting me have options. And I potentially had an opportunity with Elvis, with Elvis Duran, and then also in LA with, you know, Edgar and all of that. And then Chicago. And I was like, oh, shoot. What do I do?
Right. Those are some options.
Oh my God. I like, how did this happen? And while I was really stressed out and very upset and definitely gained a lot of weight during that period, I also realized it was so surreal and how blessed I was to have those choices. But ultimately, I think that the choice to go to Chicago was just like to bank on myself, give myself an opportunity to get my name back on a door. And I wish that didn't matter, but it does.
Yeah.
Which is funny because now my name's not on a door again, but I'll explain my reasoning to that too. But yeah, and I took a chance, and that ended up being a tumultuous situation personally. Professionally, from the outside, it was, you know, a great resume builder. But I never took the time to mourn my New York because everything happened so fast that I never really took the time to mourn. And I don't think it was until last year while I was in Atlanta that I was able to mourn New York and heal from Chicago.
Oh my God.
These are jobs I'm talking about. These aren't relationships. These are jobs, not people. And it really impacted my life so much in that way. Like even KISS, like the first station I started on, my two stations are my loves, and KISS obviously the first one, and New York. But now I'm back on the station I started at, but it's now Hits. So it's like,
right.
Same thing, but what the heck? So, but that's okay. I mean, that's just kind of a radio nerd thing. But it just, the identity part, I think that's wild. And the identity wasn't so much, you know, I'm Nina from blah, blah station. It was the role that I played and the role that I truly created for myself in my life at that moment with that station, with that show, for those people. Who was I serving? Like, to me, it's a service. You know, every time we crack the mic, it's a service. And I love it. You know, that's just one of those ways, like, I personally give back.
Why do you think being in Atlanta was the place that allowed you to mourn that and to feel those things? Where you just should have more time on your hands, or? You
know, I think it was a combination of the time, and I think it was the people. I need to give those people their credit for being so wonderful. My PD in Atlanta, his name's Louis Diaz, and he was so supportive. And he let me talk to him about this kind of stuff. And I started talking to him early on while I was in Atlanta about missing my family. And he was so great about letting me take longer weekends. So, you know, I could come home because I was in a healing process. I also had a health scare while I was down there. And that kind of shook me up a little bit because it's an ongoing thing. It's going to be fine. I just have to watch something really closely. And so I have a pending surgery. And regardless if it's fine right now, you don't know. It's still scary. And you just have to evaluate what you want from your life now. I think I didn't have a choice but to heal because everything just happened. Even getting to Atlanta, I didn't stop and think. I did what was best for my career, I thought.
And then you're there and you're kind of like, oh shit.
Yeah. I mean, this is nothing about the job. That was an excellent opportunity. The people were Elliot, so great.
Oh, he's so great. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like I got really lucky there because the people around you matter. Like that's your environment. Toxic environments will fuck you up. So yeah. So it let me do that. And they were really good about, you know, letting me be. And I did spend a lot of time alone.
Were you already like, okay, I'm going back and this opportunity opened up? Or was it like this opportunity in Seattle opened up? Hey, Nina, I want to come back.
I made the decision first, but I was going back and forth about it because I was really scared. Like, shit, like if I don't stay here on this national show and I go home to live with my parents, I mean, I am starting a business, but that's risky in itself. Yeah. And like, what is going to happen? And I just had to decide to live. I just had to choose to live and to trust that, you know, I'm not done giving whatever I have to give, whether it's through radio, maybe I do get back into television, maybe, you know, I come up with something else. I didn't know, but I knew I could find a way because I always do. I think that through healing, my relationship with myself got really strong. I trust myself to just figure it out. I'm lucky that I have a supportive family that I can come back and live with. Like, I am lucky that, that is available to me, but they're part of the reason I wanted to come home too. Like, I want to spend time with them. I've been gone for so long. While I was freaking out, back to answer your question, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I was freaking out about the choice.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got the call about that job, and it wasn't just that it was Jubal. It wasn't just that it was Seattle. It was on 106.1, another national show. But this time you're taking me all the way home. That's the opportunity that opened up when I thought there were no opportunities at all in Seattle because the changes hadn't been made yet on that station. So it was very surreal. And I was like, I think this is the universe telling me, yes, bitch, you're going home.
That gives me goosebumps.
I'm like, I'll do that. But then it comes back to the faith in, what's supposed to happen will. Like, even the New York thing. Like, I read something. I'm spiritual in a sense that, like, I feel things. And I read this meme. It was like, the universe doesn't put a dream into your heart if it doesn't intend for you to have it.
I love that.
And I loved that because it spoke to me with the New York dream. It spoke to me with wanting to come home, my business, like, that's speaking to me now too, which is skincare, also very risky, I know, but I love it and it's special. It is a skincare line that kind of leans into my culture as being half Persian. And so I kind of have been able to find pieces of myself through creating this company and getting closer to my dad. And I made a product that works. That was another thing that, I started working on in Chicago when I was sad. And I put the formula together in Atlanta when I was heartbroken and, all this kind of stuff. So I don't know, man, I've been in a lot of pain for many reasons the past few years, but I channeled it into things that, kind of got me here, and I feel the most at peace I have ever felt.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
It's weird because everything's up in the air.
And you said you were going to mention the name on the door thing.
It's so weird because, like, we learn, being a woman in radio, if you're older, you've probably put up with more than the younger ones, and even younger ones, you've probably put up with your fair share too. But the name thing has always been an issue. And so in New York, I knew my name was on the door in Sacramento. It was not in New York, and I knew that going into it, and I was totally fine because I just wanted to get there. And plus, Edgar is the best. Like, he's not a dick. Like, he wasn't trying to be like, this is mine, not yours. It was ours, regardless. And then Chicago, my name was on the door there, and in Atlanta. So coming home, I started to think about that too. I was like, am I going backwards? Whatever. It's different this time because it's Jubal. He actually owns his brand and his show. And he's a very misunderstood dude. I know there's a lot of controversy around him.
Yeah.
For different reasons, but he's misunderstood and actually very kind and very generous and all of those things, but it was his. And so I just felt like I don't care. I fought so hard about placement in two different places. I won't go into details. It's easy to figure out, but I thought about that placement because it just was important to me all of a sudden. And I was ignored, and I don't think it was intentional for anybody to hurt me so much, but it still happened. And now I just don't care. I don't want to fight about it. I'm good at what I do. I work really hard, and I'm, I look out for people, and I know that now. I don't need more. And I think if you listen to the show, I'm present.
It's interesting figuring out your values as you get older and kind of, what you chased when you were younger, and then like what means more now when you're, a few years older.
And at this point, it's peace. If I was at a different stage or in a different place, maybe it would be different. Or if I was coming home to start a show with somebody else, and it didn't already exist this way and it wasn't his, he didn't own it, different. I came home for peace, and I don't feel less than.
And you're getting to do what you love doing.
I'm going to have my podcast like most of us do, but there I want to explore some other things I don't necessarily get to touch on the show that are really important to me. And that is the relationship with self. And that is how it plays out in your life. Relationships haven't been a strong suit of mine, romantic ones, I should say.
Yeah.
Very good friends. I've been very blessed in the friend department, but ones have kind of been a struggle, and I've just kind of started looking into all that. So anyway, that's a different story. But it is something that interests me, and I'm not the only one. So I just want to explore the different parts of me and the different voices. Age, man.
Yeah.
And it's wisdom,
It
it's
is.
not just age. It's just, man, like you live and you go through so much, and we live so fast, so hard. There's been a lot of reflecting, and I just want to help people, and in helping them, I'm helping myself. I don't want to move anymore.
I get that. I mean, a lot of people in general, even younger, are just like, I don't want to move. Like they don't want to, I think, because they see that the whole thing about chasing the radio job. And again, they're chasing it for, these little salaries, to know that my station could flip in a year,
For what? Like, what's the motivation? So that part's hard. And that part's the scary part. People talk about what the future of radio looks like. And I think it still has a place. Mm-hmm. It's just how that's all going to piece together. I have my but who knows? Getting through all to where you are now, and not only having good people around you, what was there other, like, were you going to therapy and doing things like that? Yeah. Percent going to therapy. Like, my last job, I had to get back on meds. Like, I was having panic attacks in Chicago. So, I mean, I'm definitely a mental health advocate on so many levels, but therapy, it was really big, just because I don't know if I was taking things personal, or if it was just because of how much I was giving that it became personal. And so, navigating through all of that stuff was a little wild. And the identity part, and not just the what you do, like, I'm a radio personality identity, but like the placement that management or whatever, wherever they want to put you, whatever box they're trying to put you in. You're the laughing one, you're the woman, you're the second name, you're the second mic, you're the second whatever. Bitch, what? Mm-hmm. Nobody's second anything. Bitch, what? Yeah. Put me in this room and see how this goes, and then take me out and see how it goes. And now you tell me what I am. It is pretty wild, though, whenever I meet, especially another woman in radio that, maybe I didn't know before or whatever. It's like trauma bonding is real. And, even with some guys too, it's just like the radio relationship and the trauma bond is just hysterical, because we chose this wild ass path. But if you love it, I think it can love you back. Yeah. Well, even you comparing it to like a person earlier, it is very much like a relationship. It comes like the stuff people talk about, like somebody else was on here and she's talking about, like, it felt like an actual breakup, like when when she got let go too, and just being depressed and in a dark room and just feeling like she got broken up with. As many traumatic stories as we can all tell, I can't speak for everybody. I personally, even the shittiest times, I'm so grateful for, because I don't really think at this point in my life, there's much I can't handle. Yeah. And not to say that radio's been that bad, but there have been moments that were that bad. Also, just feel thankful. It's been a lot of really amazing experiences. And for me to come all the way back home, I think, like, if there was anything that I could say, it's exactly what you're saying. It's not about the market. It's not about that. It's how do you want to live? Yeah. I think that and at the time, how I wanted to live was fast and going all the way up to the top. But then, everything, changed in time. And the other part of it too is that your dreams can change. Mm-hmm. Your dreams can change, and that's okay. And, be proud of yourself for even chasing any of them. If you can chase one of your dreams in your lifetime, like, that's still brave. Advice would you give Nina back then, like Nina in Seattle before you got to New York and experienced all this stuff? It's going to be okay. How worked up I would get myself is almost embarrassing. Like, I would cry all the time and throw fits all the time by myself most of the time. But it was just, I want it so bad and I want it now. But I think that, I think advice, gosh, I don't know if it's advice. I think it's just what I would say to her is just like, keep going, like, be proud of you, because the fact that you're just still trying, even after all of the no's, like, damn, girl, keep going, you tough little bitch. Because I don't know that there's really anything that I would do different. I just think it's like, calm down.